Have you ever been betrayed by someone? Not out there, but right beside you? It didn't come with a warning, did it? It didn't knock on the door dressed like a villain. No, it showed up with a smile, agreed with your plans, shook your hand, and waited. Until the perfect moment when your guard was just low enough. Then it struck. Machiavelli understood this better than almost anyone in history. He didn't just write about power. He dissected the anatomy of betrayal, mapped it like a virus that moves silently, spreading through alliances, friendships, even families. Not with loud declarations, but with subtle shifts, a pause, a smile that lingers too long. A silence that says more than words ever could. The trio rarely comes from your enemies. It comes from the ones you let too close, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Most people think betrayal happens because they're weak. Machiavelli would tell you that's wrong. People get betrayed not because of weakness, but because of blindness. Because they ignore the patterns. Because they confuse history with loyalty. And above all, because they feel when they should. Observe, and let's be honest, we've all done it. We've all held on to someone because of shared memories. Ignored red flags because we didn't want to believe them. Assumed proximity meant protection, but in the world of power, whether you're leading a team, running a business, or simply navigating complex relationships, blind trust is not kindness. Negligence, Machiavelli didn't believe in paranoia. He believed in pattern recognition. He believed in watching closely not to accuse, but to understand. Not to fear betrayal, but to spot it early enough that it never has the chance to succeed. So, in this video, we're not just talking about betrayal as an abstract idea. We're going deep into the exact signs, the subtle behaviors that Machiavelli laid out in The Prince and Discourses on Livy. This isn't pop psychology, it's not theory, it's not motivational fluff, it's real-world strategy grounded in the brutal patterns of history. Because if you can read the signs before they explode, you don't just protect yourself, you become uncheckable. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed someone who used to challenge your ideas suddenly go quiet? Or a colleague who flatters you a little too much but never offers anything meaningful? Maybe a friend or partner who's still present but their words feel empty? You might have dismissed it, sighed, they're just tired, or they're just being supportive. But Machiavelli would tell you to look again. He believed that betrayal doesn't begin with action, it begins with drift. With small shifts, with the slow erosion of truth. And by the time it becomes obvious, it's already too late. So today, we're going to sharpen your instincts. We're going to break down 4 signs, 4 strategic indicators that someone close to you may be preparing to betray you, even if they're smiling, even if they're showing up, even if they're saying all the right things. These signs are not rooted in suspicion. They're rooted in centuries of political survival. And before we dive into them, remember this one principle. It is not strength that keeps a ruler in power, it is anticipation. Niccolò Machiavelli. So, if you want to protect what you've built, if you want to lead without fear, if you want to walk into every room knowing you've already disarmed the threat before it could act, then stay with me, because once you learn to see betrayal for what it truly is, you'll never unsee it again. Let's start with the first and perhaps most misleading sign of betrayal. Machiavelli called it shadow obedience. It's when someone appears to be fully on your side. They agree with you. They support your ideas. They show no resistance, no pushback. They nod at every decision you make. Sounds loyal, right? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Real loyalty has friction. People who truly care about your mission, your vision, your leadership, they'll speak up, they'll challenge you. They'll tell you when you're wrong, because they want the whole ship to sail straight. Not just to stay on board quietly while it drifts toward the rocks. So when someone who once offered bold ideas suddenly stops contributing, when someone who used to question you now just mirrors your thoughts. That's not peace. That's performance. And according to Machiavelli, that performance is often the opening act to betrayal. In The Prince, he warned that after someone is conquered, demoted, or absorbed into your circle, they may outwardly comply, not out of respect, but out of calculation. They haven't forgotten the past. They're simply rebuilding their strength in silence, And when the time is right, when you're relaxed, distracted, or dependent, they strike. Let's ground this in a real example. When Cesare Borgia seized control of the Romagna region, he installed a ruthless governor to carry out the necessary cruelty of establishing order. But once that order was in place, Cesare didn't thank the man he executed him publicly. Brutal? Yes. Strategic? Absolutely. He understood that someone who obeys you out of fear or necessity, but not out of alignment, is dangerous the moment they regain power. So he removed the risk. Now, I'm not suggesting you start beheading your business partners, but there's a lesson here. Compliance isn't loyalty. It's sometimes just patience. You'll see this in everyday life. The colleague who always agrees in meetings but never offers an idea of their own. The friend who used to be honest with you, but now only flatters. The partner who stops offering opinions and simply echoes your choices. That's not support. That's survival. They're not contributing, they're calculating. So how do you test for shadow obedience? Machiavelli gave. USA brilliant tactic, introduce disruption. Change course. Announce a shift in vision. Make a move they didn't expect. Now watch. If someone is truly aligned with you, they'll adapt. They'll ask questions. They'll lean in with curiosity and challenge out of principle. But if they're just posturing, they'll freeze, they'll flinch, they'll hesitate. Why? Because their script didn't prepare for this moment. Their performance only works when everything stays predictable. And once they break character, you'll see the truth, because genuine allies may disagree, but they stay engaged. Pretenders, they vanish the moment the role gets complicated. This is the genius of Machiavellian thinking. He wasn't driven by fear, he was driven by clarity. He knew that betrayal hides best behind routine, behind politeness, behind obedience that looks too perfect. So don't confuse silence with peace. Don't confuse agreement with support. Ask yourself, who in your circle has gone quiet lately? Who used to challenge you and now just nods? Who's always nearby but never first to speak? Never the one with real skin in the game? That's where the rot begins, not with a knife in your back, but with an applause that's just a little too easy. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever known someone who always talks, always praises, always checks in, but somehow never actually says anything? That's not friendship. That's not transparency. That's one of the most effective camouflage techniques of betrayal. Machiavelli called it a strategy of over-communication without clarity. Here's how it works. The person shows up consistently. They smile. They compliment your decisions. They repeat your words back to you. They send long messages filled with admiration and alignment. But when you stop to think about it, there's nothing of substance in any of it. They never take a stance, never challenge, never risk disagreement. Machiavelli, in his discourses, explained how traitors don't stay silent. They speak a lot. They flood you with affection. They agree too easily. They praise you to the point that it becomes uncomfortable. But deep down, they aren't building with you. They're watching you. Men are less careful how they offend one who makes himself love them, one who makes himself feared. He wrote. Translation. People break loyalty the moment it costs them something. And when they're about to break it, they try to overcompensate. They smother you with affirmation. They become too present. They make sure you feel good, so you stop paying attention. But here's the trap. While you're feeling appreciated, they're gathering intel. Not to support you, but to position themselves for advantage when the winds shift. This behavior is especially common in politics, business, and leadership. But it happens in personal life too. The team member who praises your vision but hasn't taken real initiative in weeks. The friend who sends daily check-ins but avoids emotional depth or hard conversations. The romantic partner who says all the right things but won't commit to future plans. They're always talking, but never moving forward. That's not connection. That's surveillance. So how do you spot it? Machiavelli gave us a tool. Ask for action, not more words. Not more praise? Action. Give them a responsibility that matters. Ask for a commitment that comes with a cost. Something they can't fake. And then observe. If they step up, good. If they stall, if they deflect, if they suddenly become vague, confused, or unavailable, you found the mask. because real loyalty shows up through risk, disagreement, contribution. Fake loyalty hides behind charm, consistency, and applause. Machiavelli once wrote, "A man will sooner forget the death of his father than the loss of his inheritance." As cold as that sounds, it points to a core human truth. People protect what truly matters to them. So if someone is unwilling to stand up, speak up, or step up when it's inconvenient, that's not loyalty. That's opportunism in disguise. And the longer you let it continue, the more you allow them to study you. While you mistake performance for protection, remember, proximity doesn't equal trust. The ones who are closest can do the most damage because they know where your blind spots are. They know what distracts you. They know exactly when your guard drops. So don't be flattered by constant attention. Be suspicious of perfect harmony, especially if it comes without challenge, without conflict, without commitment, because when someone says everything but stands for nothing, that's not a supporter. That's a strategist. Now here's the sign that fools even the smartest people. It doesn't look like betrayal. It doesn't sound like betrayal. In fact, it often looks like success. Machiavelli called it misaligned. Evolution. Let me explain. Not all betrayal comes from hatred. Some of the most painful betrayals happen because two people who were once aligned simply stop growing in the same direction. It starts quietly. A friend or partner starts using different language. A colleague becomes more ambitious, but strangely vague about their goals. They're still here, still smiling, but something shifted. At first, you don't think much of it. They're just doing their own thing. You tell yourself, but Machiavelli would urge you to pay closer attention. In discourses, he explained how political factions, once united under a single cause, rarely collapse from infighting. They fracture. When the cause itself is no longer shared, that's the key. Loyalty begins to decay not with conflict, but with divergence. So ask yourself, who in your life is growing, but no longer involving you in their plans? Who is chasing something new, but hasn't communicated what it is? Who was once part of your mission, but now avoids language like we and speaks only in I? That shift from unity to individualism isn't just stylistic. It's strategic, because here's the danger. When someone's goals evolve, but they don't include you, they're not just drifting, they're building a future without you in it. And if you ignore that shift long enough, one day you'll wake up and realize they've already left. Maybe not physically, but mentally, emotionally, and strategically. You became a chapter. They're already writing the next book. So how do you catch this before it blindsides you? Machiavelli had a simple test. Bring the vision back to the center. Ask, here's where I'm headed. Are you still with me? And don't just listen to their words, watch their energy. Do they lean in with clarity and commitment, or do they hesitate? Do they avoid specifics? Do they suddenly seem distant? That hesitation isn't nothing. That drift you're feeling, that's not your imagination. That's where betrayal takes root, not through action, but through inaction, through silence, through unspoken departures. And here's the bitter truth. Machiavelli would give you straight. Power doesn't vanish in an instant. It erodes, one quiet compromise at a time. One awkward meeting, one missed update, one delayed response. And by the time you realize what's happening, the person standing in front of you is no longer your ally, they're your competitor, with insider knowledge of how your world works. It happened again and again in Florentine politics. A loyal advisor grows in influence, builds a network behind closed doors, and when the timing is right, they move. Not in anger, not in betrayal as you'd imagine it, but in calm, calculated exit. That's why misaligned evolution is so dangerous. Because it feels harmless. Until it's not. So don't just monitor behavior, monitor direction. Don't just listen for agreement. Listen for alignment, because the scariest betrayals are not loud, they're quiet, they're thoughtful. They're happening now in someone's mind, and you won't know it until they've already decided. Sometimes betrayal doesn't grow beside you. Sometimes it walks straight into your life, already trained to switch sides. This is the fourth and final sign Machiavelli warned us about. Loyalty without roots. It looks like this. Someone shows up in your world friendly, eager, full of praise. Maybe they just left another team, broke ties with another leader, walked away from a group they claimed was toxic. Now they're on your side. They're calling you the real one. They say they've finally found someone worth following. But here's what Machiavelli would ask. Why are they here now? And where were they when you were still building? Because when someone joins you only after you've started winning, it's not loyalty, it's strategy. They're not attracted to your vision. They're attracted to your momentum. Machiavelli wrote about this in The Prince when discussing mercenary soldiers who fight for money, not cause. He warned that leaders who rely on mercenaries always fall, because the moment danger outweighs reward. The mercenary disappears. Today, your mercenaries don't wear armor, they wear smiles, they quote your words. They align themselves with your brand. But their allegiance is shallow, temporary, and completely conditional. So how do you know if someone's loyalty is rooted or rented? You study their past, not their promises. Did they betray someone else to stand next to you? Were they ever loyal to something that cost them? Did they build something with you, or did they arrive after the hard part was over? Because here's the hard truth. The person who only joins you once you're strong will be the first to leave when you're weak. True loyalty has a price. It requires friction, sacrifice, time. If someone's never had to risk anything to be near you, then they've never proven they'll stay when things get hard. Machiavelli didn't trust words. He trusted pressure. So here's what he advised rulers to do. Test it subtly, strategically, introduce small discomforts. Delay. A reward, reassign responsibilities. Reduce access to power or information just slightly. And then observe. Do they lean in and adapt? Or do they pull back? Do they make excuses? Do they get defensive? You're not being cruel, you're being clear. Because someone who's only there when things are easy, when they're gaining, is someone you can never rely on when things fall apart. Here's another way to spot it. Watch how they talk about the people they left behind. If they speak with bitterness, blame, or superiority, be careful. That's not resolution, that's unfinished resentment. And one day you'll become the next villain in their story. Machiavelli put it simply, a man who betrayed another to stand beside you will betray you to stand beside someone stronger. So, don't be fooled by sudden closeness. Don't be seduced by admiration that appears only after you've succeeded. The people you can truly trust are those who stood beside you when there was nothing to gain and stayed even when there was something to lose. Because loyalty without roots is like a leaf in the wind. It lands wherever the breeze is blowing. So now you've seen it. The 4 signs Machiavelli warned us about, the quiet red flags that almost everyone overlooks. Until it's too late. Shadow, obedience. When someone agrees too much and contributes too little. Over-communication without clarity. When words flood in, but meaning disappears. Misaligned evolution. When someone's path drifts silently away from yours. Loyalty without roots. When someone's commitment is borrowed, not built. Most people don't notice these signs because they don't want to. They confuse consistency with loyalty. They confuse kindness with commitment. They assume that if someone is still around, they must still be on your side. But Machiavelli, brutal, brilliant, and unapologetic, saw through it all. He didn't believe that loyalty was earned once and held forever. He believed that loyalty is circumstantial and it shifts with interest. Let that sink in. Someone can laugh with you, cry with you, build with you, and still betray you. Not because they hate you, but because something better came along. Not because you failed them, but because their incentives changed, and that's what makes betrayal so dangerous. It wears a familiar face. Here's what Machiavelli would urge you to do. Don't confront impulsively. Don't accuse emotionally. Don't try to win them back with sentiment. Instead, restructure your world. Quietly. Intelligently. If someone's energy changes, shift their role. If their words sound rehearsed, test their initiative. If their growth doesn't include you, tighten your circle. And if their loyalty has no roots, don't cut them off loudly. Just stop feeding them power. Machiavelli didn't believe in drama. He believed in design and shaping systems that made betrayal irrelevant. Because here's the ultimate strategy. Don't prevent betrayal by hoping people stay loyal. Prevent it by making disloyalty the dumbest move they could ever make. Create a world where betrayal is a downgrade, where your circle is tested, your structure is sound, and your leadership doesn't rest on sentiment, but on systems. And if someone still chooses to cross you, let them, because by the time they betray you, they'll have nothing left to gain. No leverage, no access, no audience. Just the echo of a door that closed long before they realized they were walking out of it. So ask yourself now, as we close, who are you over-trusting out of habit? What signs have you been ignoring out of comfort? And what would Machiavelli advise you to change today? Power, after all, doesn't protect itself. It's protected by design, by observation, by anticipation, and those who last, they don't. Wait for betrayal to strike, they see it coming, and make sure it never lands.